What?
Denisovian.
Yeah.
But basically, as a whole humanoid type. So what you're saying, 75% of the genes of Denisovians survived.
Yes.
So that means the Denisovians were the predominant people on that island.
Yes. And that's what the article was getting at. They're doing more research.
Yeah, go on.
But I know from other research, you know, there's people who live in Nepal and the Himalaya region at very high altitude.
With different lung, I can see where you're going to go.
Capacity and stuff, because they were sort of suggesting that a lot of their DNA came from the Denisovans, and I'm not quite sure how much percentage is with those, because I think it's just natural selection.
And as I've been saying, sooner or later somebody's going to twig that the Neanderthals may actually be the predominant species on this planet.
Well, they were.
Well, the thing is, why can't they still be? Why are we? You know, this is the thing. You see, every single week we hear about that. We hear about Neanderthals were this, and the Neanderthals were the first to speak. The Neanderthals were the first to produce art. The Neanderthals were the first to hunt mammoths. You know, and you start.
But when you think about it, Carl, Homo sapiens sapiens, which is us, or whatever they call modern man.
Or female.
Or female, yeah. Modern persons.
Yeah.
You know, whether they're LGBT, XYZ.
Bill would know what you meant on that.
No.
No idea what that means.
But
yeah, go on.
I think it's inherent in Homo sapiens to be prejudiced, racist, speciesist.
Yes.
And I think that's why the Neanderthal died out, apart from those who mixed with Homo sapiens.
True.
And then I probably would go along the line of saying that was more as the Afro-Americans in the United States. It was basically rape.
On that note, what I've gone where we're going now.
Well, I haven't got a clue what you're doing. You asked me for news.
That's true. That's true.
It's the most sensible news I've ever done in ages.
Well, that's cool. At least Bill's not got upset. Right. Okay. William, anything you want to say?
Which one?
Yeah.
Bill.
Yeah.
Me.
Bill.
No, I've got Neolithic. That's all I've got. Coming back to Tinkinswood.
Yeah. What? Oh my God! We're supposed to be doing the bloody Romans. We've gone off into Denisovians. We couldn't be any earlier than if we tried. Go on, then, Bill.
Well, Dell started it.
Yeah.
So we'll continue.
Yes.
No, it's just that so some weeks back, months back, we had a discussion about the capstone on Tinkinswood.
Yeah.
The weight and the different sort of versions of what the weight is, you know.
Yeah.
So last Sunday, I led a party of ramblers on the Haunted Fields walk. We passed Tinkinswood. We took a measuring tape, and they all helped me to measure it up, you know, as best as we could. And then later on, I calculated the weight.
Go on.
Which came out at 35 tons.
Ooh,
against
that's
the
15 tons. That's 15. Go on.
There is another sort of weight given on one of the websites is 40 tons. So we're in about the right park, you know. It all depends on the porosity of the particular limestone, you know, because the densities vary on limestones. And this one looks pretty porous to me, you know. It's got a lot of little holes in it. But there we are. Just for the record, it's about 35 tons.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Okay, next, Richard.
No, nothing Roman.
Well, you're the only one to actually say that. Who else have we got left? Ivor. Oh, okay, then that'll do. Right. Oh, okay then, guys. Right, let's get started.
Was that Pat from the join?
Pat.
Catty.
Someone's trying to join.
Who?
Cat,
What about her?
is she trying to join?
What?
No.
No. Right. Okay.
But she says you're babysitting or something.
She's babysitting.
Well, someone's trying to join. And who's who?
Don't ask.
Oh, I know. Nice evening last night to observe the stars and planets.
Hang on. We're drifting now. Carl, start the talk.
Right. We are. I just. Okay. Right.
Where's
We are.
Charlie's hiding away?
We should be looking now at a map, a map of Roman Britain again.
Right. Sorry.
Now I thought. Now I'm going to ask you all a question.
Hmm.
Now this is a trick question. Don't you can only use the examples on that board, right? You can't say anywhere else. So you've got Exeter, Dorchester, Fishbourne, Novemega. Right, let's start again. Isca, Exeter, De Novaria, which is Dorchester, Novomegas, which is in fact Chichester, Dubris, which is Dover, Caliva Atrabatum, Silchester, Londinium, London, Carinium, Cirencester. You've got Isca, which is Calian, Moradunum, which is in fact Carmarthen, Vericonium, Roxeter, Devachester, Segontium, Carnarvon, Mamcuium, which is Manchester, Lincoln, which is, as you know, that's going to be Lincoln. You've got Eberacum, York, Cataracatonium, which is Catterick, Venter, which is Edmund, St. Edmunds, Bury, St. Edmunds, Colchester. Out of all of those, right? God, that was a bit of a list. Which is the location on that map that has got some of the best Roman remains in Britain?
Well,
Flipping heck.
Wait a minute.
Come on. Well, actually, one of you tell me. Only on that list.
Caliva.
Carinium.
Carinium.
Either Diva, Isca, or Colchester.
Isca, I think.
Oh, you've got two Iscas there. So, right. I got to be honest. Come on. Somebody else give another guess.
Caliva.
Vericonium.
Vericonium, which is Roxeter. What did you say, Richard?
Caliva.
Caliva Atrabatum, which is Silchester. Actually, right, other than the wall around Caliva Atrabatum and a few other bits and pieces, there's not a lot to see. There's really bugger all Carinian, Cirencester, Vericonium, Roxeter. There's quite a bit. None of you have mentioned Camel and Junum, Colchester. None of you
mentioned that.
That.
It is.
You did you? All right then. None of you mentioned Eberacum.
Where's Aquasulis?
With good reason.
Bath. That's not on the map.
It's not on there.
Dale, you're not listening. If it's got to be on that map. Actually, right, the location that we're going to visit today has got some of the best sets of Roman remains in Britain, and none of you have mentioned it, and it's on that map. One more guess.
Cataraconium.
Nope.
I don't know then.
Come on. One of you. Bill.
I'll be Londinium.
Actually, Londinium's got some good remains.
Meridunum.
No, you're all guessing now. That's Manchester.
Manchester.
No, you're all guessing. Actually, the one on there is Lincoln.
Lincoln.
Lincoln. Yes, Lincoln. Yes.
Lincoln.
I've surprised you all. I've surprised myself because Lincoln itself and the Newport Gate that we've seen is only a small fraction of the Roman remains on display in Lincoln. And I've got a list of remains you can see in Lincoln, which is much more onerous than the list of remains you can see at Calian. It's a hell of a lot more than you can see at Caliva Atrabatum, a lot more than Dorchester. And in fact, Lincoln has some of the best Roman remains in Britain on display on that list. There are lots of other locations that have some really good sets of Roman remains, which is Vindolanda, but that's not on your list. I said it's got to be on that list. Cowent's not on there either, right? So none of you mentioned that, but it's not on that list either. So we're going to actually visit Lincoln. Now, I thought this would be a nice little map to actually start off with, because what this tells us is something very interesting. Is whenever you display Lincoln on a map of Roman Britain, you forget about these green areas, which were actually mainly underwater. These were salt marshes, landscape that has been reclaimed. So Lincoln was very much at high water level alongside the sea. Now that's a very interesting fact. So if you look here, Lincoln looks way inland from that. Massively way inland. It's just like sort of landlocked, right? But back in the Roman period, it was a massively important location for the Roman Empire, Lincoln. And it's a place that I personally would like to lead a trip. And you might be enamored and enthralled and overburdened by the level of archaeological remains that are on display in Lincoln. Quite a bit of a surprise, that, isn't it? And actually, there's lots of Roman cities that are not on here, right? We've mentioned Caerwent, but we haven't mentioned Colchester near the likes of Hereford, and there's a big one that's missing. There's no St. Albans on here.
I was going to say that.
Yeah, no, Del, you didn't say it.
No, I know, but it wasn't on there.
There's nothing in
Del,
Colchester.
you
What do you
followed the
think?
rules, Del. Good boy. Good boy. Now, the amazing thing about Lincoln, it's at the intersection of a number of important Roman roads, the Fossway being one of them, and Ermine Street, the intersection of a number of important Roman roads going north. So to go north, you'd have had to have gone through Lincoln. You could not have got to York road-wise unless you got through to Lincoln. Lincoln itself, if you want to think about the history of the annals of the Romans, you think about this was the base of the 9th Legion, the 9th Hispanic Legion. This was the base of the 9th Legion. It was a colony. It was the place that the cavalry retreated to in the revolt involving Boudicca in 60-61 AD. The site
Did you
that
say Spanish?
Hispanic Legion, the Spanish Roman Legion, which was actually seen to be a citizenship of Rome at that stage. But anyway, the 9th Hispanic Legion. The 9th Legion had disappeared anywhere in the Roman Empire. In fact, there are historians saying that the 9th Legion disappeared in Scotland, it disappeared in Germany, it also disappeared in Syria somewhere. In other words, it's the 9th Legion is like the Scarlet Pimpernel. It disappeared somewhere, or maybe it was just one of those legions that they needed to get rid of. Now, this is that gate. I've shown this gate before. We've looked at this gate before, and never the twain shall meet. But I did promise you months ago to do Lincoln. And that's what we're doing today. Now, I thought in my wisdom that I would just do the images that we're looking at today. But then with these things, I went off on a tangent, as Del goes off on a tangent, but it's not really relevant Roman, is it, Del? So this is the Lincoln Gate. But there was another gate surviving in Lincoln up until the 1800s. It was a buried gate. There's also the remains of another gate that you can actually see, and another gate that you can actually see in Lincoln as well. It's going to be a struggle to get through all this, so we'll just try and crack on. But whenever you see the Lincoln Gate, you see the big arch there, the big vehicular arch, but you don't see this image, the pedestrian access. Now, this reminds me, oh God, I can't remember if Bill was on the bloody trip to Colchester or not, because that just really went so well. I can't remember what happened on it. But Bill, you were on you went to Colchester with us, didn't you?
I was, yes.
And does this remind you of the Balkan Gate in Colchester?
Well, yes, obviously it's a standard architecture, isn't it?
That's right.
Nice.
That's
A Keystone Arch.
Exactly. This is the pedestrian arch. Obviously, the level would have been a lot lower in the past. We look at a few images, but I think when you want to get into the depth of Roman Lincoln, you've got to look at this image because it opens up all those other images. We look at gates and we look at some other remains in Lincoln, which are fascinating. And at this stage, it would be good to go to the Wikipedia page and some other pages and whatever, but we're not going to do that. We're just going to enjoy some bits of Roman architecture. Now, this is that gate, an image pointing towards the beautiful cathedral. And this is the north gate from the south. And that is the gate itself incorporated within the fabric of the town, the city of Lincoln. I can't call it town because it is a city. It's got a minster there, but and this was the dichotomy. This was the problem of Roman gates. They always got in a bloody way. The gate in Exeter got demolished sometime by about 1800. And it's likely as well, nobody talks about this. It's likely as well that the gates still standing in Cowbridge in the 1750s, particularly the West Gate, was still Roman fabric, right? And that was demolished. Because it was demolished because even though Roman traffic would go through an in and an out, so there'd be two arches on either side, as we will see in an illustration. There would be pedestrian access, but that's not the way we do traffic in the West. The way we do traffic in the West is like one entrance where traffic can just flow left and right without being impeded by a central plinth. So that's a very important point. This is why we demolished lots of these gates. But there's the sheepy. Looking at the North Gate again. And I like this illustration because it puts a little bit more context. Now, it puts a little bit more context because the gate is still loved. It's still used. You've got the little old lady on the right there. And what that shows there, it shows me that the arches are still standing, but it almost looks as if the right-hand side of that arch, maybe part of that, if we go back to the other illustration, has actually been reconstructed. So the internal fabric of part of this arch has been reconstructed, but then again, the arch is still standing. The arch, the pedestrian arch, is still standing. That's the original fabric. I've got to say that. And you might wish to look at this as the way the gateway would have once looked. Now, if anyone's been to Lincoln, we're not going to go into the geology or geography of Lincoln, but it's all up hills and all down hills, right? It's a typical. It's not in Yorkshire, but it's Lincolnshire naturally. But it's that type of, if you went a bit further north, Lincoln would be nicely there. Now, I don't think we're exaggerating with this gate, because we do see examples of Roman gates like this still standing. And this does sort of portray this gate as being an important entrance. Naturally, there would have been a south, a north, an eastern, and west gate. And this, I love looking at this. This is the West Gate at Lincoln. So we've been looking at North Gate. This is the hidden West Gate of Lincoln. Unfortunately, this doesn't survive anymore. This is an illustration from 1836. Oh my God. Wouldn't it be great if this gate had actually survived? Because we could say then that Lincoln has the most Roman gates surviving anywhere in Britain. But alas, we lost this. We lost the West Gate. They didn't need to widen this because there was a road going through it or anything like that. It's a simple matter that the gate obviously collapsed. And you can obviously see on the right, you've got Anglo-Saxon architecture, and you can see that the gate itself is there, still pride of place in 1836. We lost this nearly to, I don't know when we actually lost this, but as people started scrubbing along and thinking, oh, you know, we'll take a bit of dirt off the top of that. Oh, the central keystone's gone and the whole thing's collapsed, maybe. I don't really know. But this is itself is the tragic nature of what survives with that gate today. But alas, we do still have the North Gate surviving. So I think, you know, sometimes as an archaeologist, I can be quite greedy. You know, I want everything to survive. I want us to be able to see everything, but we can't have everything surviving. We've still got the North Gate. We've still got other bits of gate. We've still got other gateways still standing in Britain, and let's just be happy with that. So, again, look at that. Look at you start to see how these gates operated and the depths of the archaeology. So one thing that we can say is with the gates that do survive in Lincoln, it tells you of the levels that have risen over time. This is obviously a basement, but what we do find is that in with York as well, which is just further up the road, and I'll just say something about those nice building blocks there. When you see about York, lots of the archaeology in York is hidden. And I know Bill's been to York with me, and we saw the Roman baths at York, and they're below street level, and obviously the sewers are very below sea level. You've got the the multi-hexagonal tower as well. That's a little bit, if it was built up, that would be below ground level as well. So the Roman levels themselves had obviously changed over time, and lots of the archaeology of the Roman period, as we see from the earlier illustration, as we see with the likes of our Westgate, we can see that archaeology can, in the Roman period, be well hidden, only to be discovered in later generations. That actually still remains, but a little bit of that remains, actually. I found that out. I found the bits of the South Gate still remain, right? But I like this when you know that's Roman architecture because of the blocks. You know this is military build, right? This is how the military built everything. So if we have a good old look now, the military work here, this is military building blocks. This is the same building style that the 9th Hispanic Legion would have used in their stretches of the construction of the likes of Hadrian's Wall. So you can very much tell that that's Roman building material. And anyone who sort of said, oh, that's Roman over there, just have a little look. Right? But what we do find, I like this illustration because unfortunately, okay, I'm being greedy, right? This bit survives, but the springers of the arch don't survive. You know, all this is gone. However, the main fabric of the structure does still survive, as the South Gate in Lincoln. So what have we got so far? We've got basically 4 gates to visit in Lincoln. Well, we haven't done it yet. I think we've done 3 so far, haven't we? We've done the west. Right, okay. Let's just carry on with the other one. So with South Gate, North Gate, there were other little gates as well that you would see in representation. I know Bill, when he went to Colchester with us, it was Bill, me, and a couple of others. We went over to see the other gateways in Colchester that nobody else visited with us. And there's obviously the 4 gateways in Lincoln, but like Colchester, there are other entrances that you can actually see on plans. But again, not a massive amount of time to do this today. Do you know one thing I want to do, right? Bits of Roman wall still standing in Britain. Nothing else, just a book about Roman wall standing in Britain, because I think the most fascinating thing that we did when we were doing the Roman stuff, when we started doing these Roman classes, was that we looked around London, did we not? And we looked at little bits of Roman wall, and I got really excited. And I just thought, what somebody writing a book about bits of Roman wall still standing in Britain, it would be fabulous, actually, because you can compare the different bits of Roman wall. You've got a really nice stretches of Roman wall in Dorchester. You've got really nice stretches of Roman wall in Exeter. Do I need to go on?
Well, at Cardiff Castle as well, remember, the base there is the Roman
Exactly. So
remnants of the last fort built there. Yeah.
exactly. So Cardiff Castle. Oh, actually, don't get me started on Cardiff Castle, Roger. You've really done it now.
Yep.
You know I love the wall at Cardiff Castle. It's my other mistress. Now, this is what so we've done the north, the south, the west, and when this is the east gate. Now, again, the east gate is rather interesting, is it not? Because it's built differently from the north gate, because it's portrayed there as actually only having vehicular access points. Maybe it might have been because the never eat shredded wheat, the east gate, is not as well used as the north and south gate, because you've got the Fosse Way and you've got Ermine Street needing to feed through the south and the north gates. So the east and the west gates, forget the west gate. Maybe not forget the west. The east gate need not be as important. Who's trying to talk?
Okay, I'll just unmute myself in a minute.
I thought that was Ivor then.
No, it's me.
Look at this.
Impressive.
This is the east gate. Look at that nice curve on that there. And the point with this image is that they love their Roman archaeology in Lincoln, right? How dare us not look at the Roman archaeology in Lincoln? They love it, right? And you can actually see the street level there, the street level there. You can see the car there, the street level. You're looking down on it. This would have all been exposed and visible in the Roman period. This stands out and it says, "Hey, boys and girls, look at me," right? But unfortunately, chunks of this wall are now buried, right? But this bit has been exposed and you can look down on it. Great bit of archaeology, great little bit of presentation. I love it. I love it. We could learn a little bit more about this with Cadw in regards to Caerwent. Did you know at Caerwent, you do have bits of Roman arches still standing on the north and the south gate, but very little is made of them. And to be honest with you, I would like to see them looked at and preserved a little bit better. So again, looking at that street scene, I you know what I wanted to say today? I wanted to say, think of Lincoln, right? It's within that landscape, just within sort of the border territory of the Kingdom of Northumberland, right? Jessica will be doing that with you tomorrow. One thing I did with it, one thing that I was saying about the Kingdom of Northumberland, right? And we're not going to answer that. The one thing I was saying about the Kingdom of Northumberland is that it very much lived on the heritage in regards to what was left behind by the Romans. And Lincoln is no such exception to that, because Lincoln would have still been on the crossroads of those roads going north to Northumberland, to that great Kingdom of Northumberland, going south into the Kingdom of East Anglia. So when you go into the period of the Anglo-Saxons, you see this massive Roman legacy pushing on these great Anglo-Saxon kingdoms later on. So remember that when you're doing that tomorrow with Jessica. Now, before I look at my little bits and pieces, before I look at this list of things that I wanted to go through, and I think we might have enough time to do that, there has been fresh excavation work in Lincoln. And this is actually a Roman bone comb. And this was found associated with a burial, a series of burials that were actually found in Lincoln, I do believe associated with the Cathedral precinct. Guys, if you could bear with me a minute, I'm just going to see, because I believe that phone call may have been about something. Just bear with me a minute.
Looks like a knit comb.
Yeah.
Right, sorry about that, guys.
Probably was.
we deliver something. So again, we've got new Roman archaeology being found in Lincoln, right? And we've got burials, and we've not just got the walls, but we've got this big list of things I want to show you in regards to Lincoln. But here's some of the burials. Now, this is rather interesting, right? The reason why this is rather interesting is because of the fact that these are inhumation burials. They're not cremated burials. So it's very likely that these are Christian burials. And interestingly enough, lots of these graves are quite higgledy-piggledy. It's quite a well-used burial site. So you've got one body here, and this is then flexed out all the way down to the toes. And actually, that skull there is not actually placed into the appendix area of the individual, which is shown by the arrow.
I was going to say, because it looks quite rude.
Yeah, but it's not. It's just the way it's buried.
Mm.
It's just the way it's buried, because this skull itself is actually part of this body. So if you actually look, there's actually no association. It could have actually been that this person was buried first, and this may have actually been a relative. This may have actually been the husband or the wife. So, or then again, this person's buried, and this person had rotted away, and then this person's just interred directly on top. And again, interesting enough, space in the Roman burial site in Lincoln with the burials, you can clearly see that it's quite likely that the knees are brought in there because they're aware of another burial as well. So they weren't aware of this burial, or maybe they were because this person related to this person. So interesting stuff there. But again, these are actually inhumation burials. Now the Romans cremated. The Romans had a cremational burial practice, and then when Christianity come along, they were starting to lay their burials in a Christian way. So these are probably date from about the 300s or about the 350s to the 400s, which then start to lead us into the 400s and that later sort of Roman period. So again, moving on with that, and actually, this isn't for this week, right? But you know what I want to do? I want to look at this stretch of Roman road next week, actually, in Northumberland. Comparing this with the standard Roman road that we see in Britain with something like this. This is by far the mystery of the week. This is the Roman road that we're going to actually be looking at next week. So looking forward to doing that. Looking forward to getting some really nice images. Love to walk this stretch of Roman road in Northumberland. This is how a Roman road should be, and not the Roman roads that me and Bill have walked along, which look like this. And we're thinking, I'm looking at Bill, this is a Roman road, and Bill going, yeah, it definitely is. Yeah, it is Roman, Bill. Usually because most roads marked as Roman in Britain actually just followed trackways, and they weren't actually metalled like this, right? So that's the thing. So what I want to do now, I want to kick myself off these images, right? And I'm gonna treat us to a nice little bit of a website that we're gonna chuck up here now. I'm just gonna get this online. Hopefully it's oh, love it. I just looked at this. I was looking at this earlier on, and I'm gonna show this now. So we're gonna stop that, and we're gonna bring this on. Bingo. Do you know, earlier on I just thought, right, I want a nice little bit of a plan. I wanted a plan of Lincoln, right? And then I looked onto this, and it started showing me more and more and more and more and more things, right? And I started thinking, hang on a minute, right? I need to just show this as it is, right? So obviously what we do, as I mentioned earlier on, what we do have, we have the way Lincoln is, it's this bit here is actually on a bit of a hill, and then the civilian town itself stretches down on the slope. So the rest of the town is on a slope, and the Roman military fortress or fort, the fortress itself, the for the 9th Hispanic Legion is actually based on top, and it's got these massive views. So let's sort of go through this, and we're listed 1, 7. We've got all these numbers on here. So these are the bits of Roman remains that we will look at, right? And we've got lots to see, right? So hopefully we'll get through this as quickly as possible. So Lincoln contains the majority of Roman monuments in the county. And in fact, and indeed has more still to see than most Roman settlements in Britain. Was that fair at the beginning? Yes, it was, but none of you said this on your list. I may have not said it on the list, but I would have just sort of thought about the Newport Gate. It's really important. You know, what else is in Lincoln? Let's have a little look. The points listed below are only where remains can physically be seen. So if we have a trip to Lincoln, right, if we want to go all the way, we can see nearly 20 sets of Roman remains in Lincoln, which is quite a lot, to be honest with you. Which is quite a lot. So there's the physical remains that you can see. They do not include other discoveries and other things that are below ground, and obviously there's going to be below ground. So let's just click into this, and we'll get on to this. So Newport Arch, again. Remember, that's in your north. So remember this, that's your north gate. So your east gate, your west gate, your south gate. Okay, so this is what we're going to do, right? But you've also got, to make it even more confusing, you've got several other west gates as well. So be very careful. So that we've just seen that. So the Newport Gate is one of the best known monuments of Roman Britain. So it's a must see. Right, so the first gateway on the site was timber, and it was built by the 9th Legion. There it is. That gate was rebuilt in stone as early as the late noughties into the 100s. But the gate to be seen today dates from another rebuild or substantial rebuild into the 200s. So by about the late 200s, about 300, lots of gateways were being constructed, and it's mentioning you've got the vehicular arch and you've got the pedestrian arches as well. So what we've got is the easternmost side surviving of both. So the gates of the upper city seem to have been rebuilt on a grander scale at the same time as the lower city walls and gates were being constructed. So obviously we've got modifications in the medieval period, and the larger stones forming the arch itself and the smaller surviving pedestrian arches are actually Roman. So we've got a little bit of a western bastion of the Newport Gate. So we've not just got the eastern side that we're seeing. Bits of the western side of the gate are still intact as well. So that's something that I was not aware of. I thought what we're seeing is just all that's remaining of the gate, but there's other bits of it surviving as well. Surviving element of the arch, which is easy to miss. And there it goes. It's easy to miss there. Is that western bastion associated with the gateway. Finally, the line where the wall line crosses the arch is marked on the ground in cobbles across both the pedestrian tunnel and the main roadway. So there's stuff marked out there as well. So this is one thing that they're good at doing in Lincoln. They're marking things out. So section of the northern wall of the upper city. So you've got a nice bit of wall on display. Really bad image, unfortunately, but you've got a nice bit of wall on display again. I mean, I'm going to send Richard out to take photographs of all these things, and it can be Richard's photographs and Carl's texts. Yeah, I'll give you something for petrol, Richard. So what we've got is to the Newport Arch, marked out on the grass in front of the rectangular outline, is a large water storage tank. So there was a large water storage tank as well. Interesting, again, repeat that, a large water storage tank. There was an aqueduct pipe that fed Lincoln from the north. So we've got evidence that there was an aqueduct as well. So they had a big storage tank that stored water. So again, really, really interesting that. And so we've got what they've got is the we know where the colonnade was in the center of the main legionary site. So we go quickly back up again. So this central area here, this is what we're talking about now. So they marked out as well areas where the main colonnade would have actually have been for this great Roman city. So probably won't go back won't go back to that plan again because otherwise it's going to take all day. So we know where this colonnade is, and this is where the roundels on the base of the columns. This is associated with this artist impression, the reconstruction. This being excavated in 1878, and we've got the lines of the columns, and look at that there. You can actually look down a Roman well. There's actually a well, a Roman well you can actually see. So this is really well laid out. You can actually look down into the forum well, an actual proper Roman well, which you can actually see down. Unfortunately, you can't chuck money into it. That's okay, because Richard hasn't got much money to chuck down into it. But what we can actually see here, that's right, isn't it, Rich? But what we can actually see there is an outline of this forum. And there's bits of it surviving. You've got the well, you've got the outlines of the columns as well. And actually, York does pretty well with actually having this massive column still standing out in York as well. So this isn't a competition between Lincoln and York, but I'm sure it would be a good competition, and I'm sure it would be very close which one wins. We've got sewage systems which are still operational in York, but we've got really nice remains in Lincoln. So this is known as the Mint Wall. So look at that. You can see the typical. You can see the string course there. You can see a nice section of string course there. And that's, you can obviously see that's typical Roman build, typical Roman military build with the great blocks there. Great. The Mint Wall is one of the most significant but overlooked Roman remains in Britain. It's good, isn't it? You can see the way it's actually really well constructed. It's not as good as the wall
like
at
Colchester again.
It's not as good as the Cardiff one, but you know, we can't have it all. Tucked away around the back of the Castle Hotel. Again, it says there, this is a really interesting statement. It is one of the largest pieces of freestanding Roman building wall to be seen anywhere in the country. It's pretty tall, I got to be honest with you. That is pretty tall. What we're talking about, 4.5, 5 meters in height, so that's really good. So again, you've got reconstruction of the forum there. We like that. And the name, the Mint Wall's interesting. Is an interesting one, and is often said to have been originated when the famous William Stukely antiquarian in the beginning of the 1700s mistakenly believed that the wall was part of a coin minting wall shop. Hence why it's known as the Mint Wall. Other authors have said how wonderful this wall is, and obviously forget the mint thing there. So there we go. A Christian church within the forum. So they've outlined in the fall a very early Christian church coming out of the Roman period. There are few attested late Roman churches in Britain. We do have a late Roman church in Colchester, because I took Bill there. We saw the site of a late Roman church in Colchester. So this sort of matches that, being excavations there and all the rest of it associated with the forum in the 1970s. And that's an outline of what this sort of Church of St. Paul's may have actually looked like. So carrying on again, I'm not going through this quite quick. There's the East Gate of the Upper City. Again, the Upper City. So let's define this. The legionary base was initially in the upper part. It was originally a legionary base, and it expanded to be a civilian site. It expanded very similar to Colchester, Camulodunum. In that Camulodunum was actually a military site, and it was to be a coloni where veterans would settle. The veterans would settle in the likes of Lincoln. Lincoln itself, I don't know if we get around to it, but Lincoln itself has some of the finest gravestone markers to be found anywhere in Britain. There's another little bit of a fact. So the East Gate into the Upper City was one of the largest and most impressive of Lincoln's colonial gates. The tower is located inside the grounds of the Lincoln Hotel. Tell you what we need to do, we need to have a trip up there, stay at the Castle Hotel and the Lincoln Hotel, and we can see all these remains. Brilliant. Probably more to see. Nice bit of a reconstruction. We saw that again. Remember, the East Gate itself, even though it's massively impressive, it's sort of going towards the coast, and it's sort of probably not required to be as grand as the other gates. But bloody hell, that's really impressive anyway. The excavations to the south of the modern road have revealed the location of the South Tower of the East Gate. This is what we're saying. And confirmation of the gate consists of 2 large vehicular archways, but no flanking pedestrian arches that I've already mentioned, which it didn't really need them because it probably wasn't used as much. As the only gateway to possess this configuration, we can assume that the upper east gate was the main route in and out of the upper city for wheel traffic, just as with all the upper city gates. Colonized gates were constructed on the same site as the precursor gates of the legionary fortress. So in other words, what's happening is, or mention what's happening, is when the legion moves out of Lincoln, it basically goes over to be a civilian city, but with military pretensions, that sense of military pretensions. So again, section of the eastern wall of the upper city, another little bit of the wall again, right? I get excited about walls because, right, okay, Del knows why I get excited. Roger knows why I get excited about Roman walls, because that was my first bit of Roman archaeology when I was a child, right? I will confess that after being draped around medieval castles, I love Roman walls. I've got to say that. But down the road from us is Caerwent. Forget the blooming one at Caerleon. It's just disappointing compared to Caerwent. And then the trips that me and Bill have had looking at the Roman remains on the East Coast. They are bellissimo. Right, so you can understand why I love these walls. I really, really do. I really, really do. Mosaic in Lincoln Cathedral. Oh my God! It's got a mosaic in the cathedral. How brilliant! How brilliant! The Wren Library at Lincoln Cathedral is a beautiful architectural space containing treasure troves of archival documents. Hidden at the bottom of its staircase, perhaps the most commonly seen by visitors seeking the respite of the cathedral coffee shop, is a Roman mosaic pavement. Wow. Discovered in the adjacent cloisters, so it was associated with the cathedral precinct. Okay, it was just moved a little bit. We can give them that. That's fine. We don't really mind that bit. But the pavement was moved to its current position under the staircase shortly afterwards, giving it a sense of preservation. Look at the nice galosh pattern there, probably influenced by the architectural school of Cirencester that used this galosh pattern. This nice bordering, this nice sort of, in a way, there's monochrome statements being made there, as well as that sort of colourful bent as well. So we mentioned the galosh there, the great motifs there, and that is a nice. Oh, hang on a minute, I just lost my thingamajig. So look at that there. That's how they reckon that this would have been as a reconstruction.
Well,
Yeah, so really quite precious. But you're thinking that's really quite precious, but it's a tiny fragment of a massive mosaic again. Yeah, so that's how they would have seen it in 1793. They protected it. You can see it today. Look at that. You know, that is the south gate of the upper city. I know, it looks very disappointing, right? And there's nothing much to say. And my beautiful Michelle has turned up with two, I think this is like, what? Yeah, anyway. This is the south gate of the upper city. And I know it doesn't look very impressive, but what we do find there is that still a bit of Roman arch, right? It's still a bit of Roman arch. And yes, okay, it's not as impressive as the illustration that we saw. Maybe that was exaggerated, but that is Roman. It's a nice, I tell you what, if that was still hanging around in Cardiff, right, there would be a blue plaque on it, and this would be like, look at this, right? Look at this, boys, come and see it. So as most people climb Lincoln's famous steep hill, there you go, they will likely not notice this monument. This gate is one of the most interesting and unusual in Roman Britain, as it was an entirely internal structure, dividing two areas of the colonni rather than a point where the colonni and the outside world interface. So in other words, this is a gateway inside the city with steps leading up to it. So it's very interesting that, and the form of the gate has been a source of speculation for many, many years. And you're talking about some other information there now inside building number 44 at Steep Hill, now a charming gift shop, can be seen the spina, the stone column separating the two arches, the central reservation of the two arches, And at the back of the shop, behind the glass and shop displays, the eastern wall of the Eastern Arch is there. It is. Look at that. You can go into it. Basically, I think it would be really insulting to go into this gift shop and not buy anything. But obviously, there it is. It's in a glass cabinet, a bit of Roman remains. There it is. And this is that south gate with steps leading up to it. So obviously you're not, you've got steps leading up to it, and somehow there's a way from the side to actually go through the gateways and all the rest of it. So, I must have said something to Michelle. She didn't say much when I are these aubergines or cucumber? Michelle, are these aubergines?
Aubergines.
Yeah, there you go. So carry on. It's good to have. And look at that there. The stone steps. It's not just a reconstruction. You've got Roman stone steps. Isn't it? Look at that. You've got lovely, beautiful Roman stone steps. I'm thinking, wow, we've got a lot going on here. Oh God, I'm running out of air now. Right. Section of the eastern wall of the lower city. Right. So the lower city, you've got a little bit of eastern wall. Doesn't look very well preserved. It's really disappointing because everything's been really put on display. So you've got that little bit of wall there, right? I'd like to see that preserved a little bit better, but there you go. And also, you've got remains of earthworks associated with what's called as the Temple Gardens. Remains of a defensive ditch outside the lower eastern wall. So there we go. This takes me back to the trip to York. When I said to Bill, we're going to go to the plague pits. And everybody thought we were going to see plague pits with human limbs hanging out, right? But you can imagine me saying, let's go and see the defensive ditch. It's still there. And people saying, but there's not much to see, but this is still a Roman defensive ditch. You'll be surprised, folks. There ain't many Roman defensive ditches on display in Britain. There's no Roman defensive ditch on display at Caerleon or Caerwent or any of the sites that we see. Isn't that right, Bill?
No, Hadrian's Wall has got a defensive ditch.
Oh, shut up about Hadrian's Wall. I'm not interested in Hadrian's Wall. But,
Yes, it's up there though.
Bill, you know what I'm trying to say, don't you? You don't often get defensive ditches, right? Okay, Bill, you really wrecked it now. But yeah, the point is, right, you don't get many, don't laugh, Ivor. You don't get many ditches like this on display. Again, the line of the western wall of the lower city. Look at that.
Oh, right. Yeah.
The Roman masonry there, obviously these windows have been put in there, but you're thinking, well, I love it. Do you know what, right? When I was a young lad, right, when I went to York with my granddad, Mobend, right, on the south side of the river Foos, there was a little lane, and along that little lane there was a traceable bit of Roman wall with a little bit of brick, but nothing like this. This is I could just stand there and just look at that. I love it. I love what we're seeing. I love this. I love this Lincoln. I love it. Another southwest gate. So we mentioned the other gate. Look at that carved plinth there. Look at the way that's carved there. Another one of the gateways. They love their gateways. This is the southwest gate of the lower city. So there we go. We got that there. And isn't that great? The hidden nature of Lincoln's Roman remains are perhaps best demonstrated by one of the southwestern gateways of the lower city. A surviving gate, a wall section of this scale, the gate even being walkable through. So you can just walk through it. It's great. Love it. Excellent. Would surely be a nationally recognised monument if located in London or York. I tell you what, whoever wrote this is really loving their Lincoln, isn't they? It must have been written by somebody in Lincoln. The visible remains demonstrate the sequence of activity. So what we've got changes, we've got the level of evidence, and look at that there. Isn't that great? So I love that because what they've got instead of like demolishing the Roman wall, they've sort of built this sort of cavity so you can actually walk and see it. We have a trip to Lincoln, right? There's me with the gang, right? We'll all sit there, have a picnic. I can tell you about the archaeology and history of Lincoln, right? And there's good old Kathy moaning away and echoing under there. That's great, love it. So again, Poston Gate, a pedestrian gateway into the lower city. So an external gate where you can see that's in a basement as well. And this is a point, you see. Lots of the, well, some, not all, but lots of the Roman stuff in Lincoln is obviously slightly subterranean. But you can actually go into basements and in parking lots and all the rest of it and see it. So it's great. So reconstruction of the postern gate and tower. So you've got the water there. I mentioned the water. There you go. The water is lapping. The sea is lapping the landscape of the walls of Lincoln back in the day. So the postern gate itself, an exterior access to the harbourage to the south of the city. So the name is generic, one used in military terminology, the postern gate, the sort of exit, the sort of the place you would evacuate the city. Look at that there, an altar set up by Gaius Antestius Frontinus, the Roman general Frontinus, in St. Swithin's Church. So there we go. Great. You've got an altar in the church. Love it. Let's go and see the altar, guys, girls. Tombstone of Caesar and his family, and what we do. Have we got? There we go. We've got a tombstone inside St. Mary's Le Wigford. So I think, do we have a little bit of information about this tombstone? There we go. The tombstone placed within that church there, prominently besides the door of the church, is significant because of its reuse in Anglo-Saxon context. We did the reuse of Anglo-Saxon stuff the other week. The Anglo-Saxon text in the apex of the tombstone dates to the time the church was consecrated in the 1000s. Earthig had me built and endowed to the glory of Christ and Saint Mary. You'll miss my lecture, you guys, from Bridgend tomorrow, because I really get into my pronunciations of Anglo-Saxon names like Earthig. So that tombstone itself has been reused. Roman tombstone reused in the church. You can still see it today, and you've got the Roman nome sacri, which basically in the second line of the Latin was misinterpreted as a Christian message. So obviously this is a pagan tombstone. The Roman tombstone was set up to a man named Sacer, the proper translation sacri in the line mentioned, not associated with Christianity. So this guy from the Gaulish Senatoni tribe that probably fought as an auxiliary. And again, it said, are they all commemorated together due to them all dying at the same time, perhaps in some disaster such as a family? So in other words, you've got a whole family mentioned on there. Section of the Fossway at St. Mary's Guildhall. So in other words, yeah, you can go to the Guildhall, and actually you look down, you can look at the Roman road in the Guildhall. Love it. How many Roman road surfaces can you actually see in Britain other than the ones we actually see next week? Very, very few. So again, if we go there, again, we sort of go there, and we see these little plans. This is rather interesting that we can actually, what happens is that the Roman roads, the Fossway and the Ermine Street actually meet within the south part of this wonderful city of Lincoln. They actually meet together. And they go together to actually eventually go to York. So again, all these little bits showing on the plan. I haven't got much time to go through this, but you can see that they're indicating where bits of walls and buildings and roadways are actually indicated there. And there you go, another church. Lots of churches with bits, Mithratic, a carving associated with Mithras. And there you go. There it is, reused in the church. So we'll just mention this as well. It has been suggested by Professor Stoker that the carving represents Mithras in the church. Although sadly very worn, it shows a figure with a lion headed wearing a short tunic. And there it is, that carving, holding keys. Might be mistaken for Christian imagery, but is believed to actually be Roman imagery. And obviously the cult of Mithras being very powerful and important in regards to the Roman context. You can see the sort of Anglo-Saxon archway there. So that's basically what's on display in Lincoln. And again, going back, we've looked at this plan. There's lots to see in Lincoln, lots to see in regards to churches, these churches. mentioned here, 17, 18, and 19, where you've got the carvings and all the rest of it. We'll call it a day now. Are there any questions?
Yes. Do you want to go first? I'm amazed we haven't been there, from what you said, Carl, because it's a fabulous place, more interesting than York, actually.
Actually, Bill, I'm going to stop you there. The medieval stuff is massively important as well.
It is too. Because I went there some years back on a coach trip, but I didn't have much time there. So I headed up the hill from the new town to the old town, and the cathedral quarter and the castle, you know. So I found the Newport Gate, and also there are some of the well-preserved remains between that on the east side, between the gate and the cathedral as well. But I never realized there was so much there, you know, I didn't have time to do it. But the other question is, it's a colonia, which means it's a retirement home, basically.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So
yes.
how does that match and marry into the fact that it was a working fort as well? Because you had soldiers who were doing what soldiers do, and then you had another part of it, which was the retirement bit. Well, the other question is was this the only colonia in Britannia, or were there other colonias in other cities?
Actually, Colchester's classed as a colonia as well. And you could say that veterans actually retired in York as well. So that there are other locations where colonia, for retirement veterans, where they would have been. There's nothing else in the southeast other than Colchester. Exeter's sort of ringing a bell. Gleevham's ringing a bell, but that was a legionary base as well. So Gloucester, we didn't mention Gloucester either. So what we do see is that there's this is a proper colonia, but the Roman military would have moved out eventually anyway. So that anyone wanting to retire there would have been very welcome to actually fill the vacuum of the military base.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting features in what at first glance you see as modern walls.
Yes.
I found in walking down from the Newport Gate into the cathedral area, you know. So it's a fascinating city. It really is.
Cathedral, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So well, good on that, Fab. What about you, Rog?
I was thinking a number of questions. Main one is the sighting of Linden. It was at the time near the sea, so okay, fine. Possibly on a route north out of Londinium. But is there any other reason why it was sited just there as a hub for other parts of the country, as you said?
It's along the way, isn't it? It's the place that you're going to need a city, because you're going to need. So it's along that important route, and it just built up to be the intersection of two roads. So it's a very important locality. So
the other thing we could do is, you know, it's come up here all the time, is the mosaics being used across the country.
Yes.
More of a sort of lesson discussion on all of that, the different types, how they were built, and what they portrayed in the patterns. Was it religious? Just something thought up as a nice shape, or what? So there's a whole subject there to discuss, I think, and what's happened from that since. Because I know they cut up stone into the squares, but where did they get it from to start with? You know, how did it build up from rock face to a tesseract?
But obviously, the one thing is because it's got sea access. You could have bring all these.
Did you say he wasn't dressed appropriately?
No, yes, in bed. He had his pajamas on and I was in bed.
Right. Anything you'd like to say? I don't know what that was about. Right, go on in.
And the thing was that you see all these buildings and stonework and the walls, castles, gates. Have we got any evidence of the tools they used to form up these blocks and shape?
We do actually have a number of Roman iron picks that have actually been discovered.
So how did they say get the stone out of the quarry to then make it into the blocks that are used in you know,
if you
skins of the walls and stuff?
If you go to Hadrian's Wall, there are vast quarries, large sort of open quarries, and also Bath is an example of underground stone quarrying as well, which is quite.
So I was wondering, for the Romans, I've never seen any tools chiseled or some. Did they have any mechanization or any form?
There are the Roman military, the soldiers themselves. Most of them would have carried an iron pick anyway. It was part of their
Yeah.
kit.
What about the shaping chisels or something to shape
Yeah,
up the block?
yes, there's evidence of Roman chisel kits being found. That's all been found. We've got all that evidence.
All right. I'd like to see something more of that. That's another thing for me.
All right, then we'll have to chuck
But
some
the-
Roman tools in next week.
Yeah, a trip to Lincoln, I'd definitely be interested in next year.
Yes, we definitely got to think about it. So
That was complete news to me, all this. So,
Carl, she'll allow me to go as well.
oh well, she'll allow you. Oh, well done.
Oh yes, oh yeah, the boss will allow me.
That's good. I'm glad she'll allow you. Del, we haven't got much time. Before we go on to Richard, anything you'd like to say? Thanks for that, Bill and
Yeah,
Roger.
I'm sorry I didn't hear all of it, but I can catch up on YouTube. But Jane's got a visitor to do with church music, and my uncle was just leaving, so I had to, you know.
You and your bloody
Oh,
uncle.
your uncle's infamous, Dell. It really is.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know. Oh, it's okay. I've got to keep an eye on him, but I think he's understood now. He has to ask me first.
So in other words,
right.
if he starts demolishing the house, he's got to get
No,
your permission.
tell you what, wait until I have chickens and turkeys.
oh,
Oh well.
You know, having a
You
go.
want to move,
One of-
Dell, and not tell him?
Oh, our garden's big enough, and next door will join in with us on the other side. So, you know, we're on a junction, 3 sides round. We'll have a bit of a menagerie.
I bet you haven't got a crow.
Oh, don't ask. Don't ask.
Right.
I've got a pied crow.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Oh, excellent.
Hmm.
Better than a Pied Piper. Right.
Oh, I'd love one of them. Can you play the pipes? Just
The pipe.
get rid of the flipping rats from the
Well,
pond.
you want me to do this?
Oh, please,
Oh, blimey.
wear something colourful and walk up the road and take them somewhere else.
Cool. And right, last wing, Richard. Before we go, we have to finish soon.
Oh, really interesting.
Uh,
Right.
so yeah. So okay. I appreciate everybody's time today. And Bill,
Yep.
Roger,
Yeah. Thank you,
Richard,
Carl.
Del, and Ivor, and we'll see. You
Am I
obviously-
Dell or am I UARs?
You are
Yeah, it took
I
me a
don't think I-
while to realise.
Williams, ain't it?
Oh, I'll get
Yeah.
you back, mind. I'll get you back.
Okay, I know you will. All right then. If there's no other questions, folks, thanks, Bill, Roger.
Yes, sir.
Thank you,
Yes,
Carl.
Carl,
yes,
That
take
was-
care.
Yeah,
Who the
somewhere
hell
I
is Tommy
wanna go.
Robinson?
Cheers, everyone.
Richard,
Right.
Bye all.
See
See
you.
you tomorrow, Bill.
take care.
Yes,
Bye.
then.
Well,
Cheers.
take care.
Cheers.
Take care. Bye. Cheers, guys. Bye bye. Anyway, thanks for watching on YouTube.